Okay, we're gonna mix up a batch of chaos right now, so I gotta put my chaos outfit on. We're gonna do seed mixes. I'll show you how I do that, and then we'll plant the wildflower garden out on the bottom of that pond there. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is build a substrate that you're going to mix your seeds into. Depending on what you're doing, that substrate might be different. For throwing seed balls, you're going to use probably something like pond clay. For what I'm doing, spreading it out on a hill, I want the seeds to essentially be distributed, relatively uniformly. So I'm going to actually use sand, quite a bit of sand, a little bit of compost for food. So we're going to mix that together in the wheelbarrow. And then we're going to mix our seed mix into that. All right, so we got a little bit of that woody-based compost. We've got sand underneath, and we're just going to basically mix that together. You can use whatever you have available for free. I reach into my bag of goodies, and we are going to spread some seeds. Herb collection. So we've got all of these. So basil, this isn't really going to live, but we'll do it anyway. Chives. Chives should be able to establish themselves. Parsley, that's good. Some are savory, maybe. Thyme should live. All right, so we're gonna get those in there. Okay, now obviously, best way to go about this is to save your own seed. I didn't mention this. I have a problem when I go to garden centers and I see seed packets, especially on sale, those bulk ones, I tend to buy them. So yeah, I don't really need parsley seeds because I have parsley literally everywhere. The basil really won't grow, but whatever. It'll kind of be fun to put it in there and then see what pops up. But for the most part, go around in the fall and collect seeds. These are some blackberry leaves and catalpa and locust seeds. So why not? Let's stick them in there. Apple seeds and quince that I save from every time I eat an apple or anything. Someone at work had a quince tree, so they gave me a quince, so I saved every seed and we'll plant them and see what happens. One of my faves, lovage, that goes in. A Christmas present from a while ago, thyme, let's get it in there. Some of these seeds, they only last so long, so you kind of got to use them or the viability of the seed goes down year after year. So just plant it. All right, okra from 2019. Why not? Let's go. Bush beans from 2018. These may or may not go. Beans sometimes tend to not really last very long, so we'll just see what happens. Now, normally with beans you probably want to pre-soak them or whatever, but you can also just stick them in the ground. Like just throw them everywhere. All right, so here we have the Wildflower shade mixture. This is the one that I put in my last video there. So we've got, maybe I'll just do this and then you can pause it. Come on, focus. Focus. All right, so hopefully you could actually pause that and see it. Actually, I thought this would be filled with like a whole bunch of peat or vermiculite or something like that. It's actually just seeds. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of nitrogen fixers. Big seed cell, you can tell. These want sun actually, and that area is a little shady down there, but hopefully some of them will find their little spot on some of the sunnier spots of the hill and germinate. And then worst case, who knows, maybe down the road that cedar dies, I have to cut it down, sun gets opened up, the seeds are still in the ground waiting, ready to go, and maybe they'll come up. Now, depending on where you are and how depleted your soils are, these can take over a hill. But for where I am, I'm actually going to be struggling to get these to germinate actually and live. And I'm surrounded by forests, so even if they get into the forest, they're not a forest plant, so they're not going to really do very well. But hopefully they'll establish on that hill and feed nitrogen in until they pass on and, you know, give their way to the locust trees or whatever else, the apple. All right, Dutch white clover, favorite. Paulina elongata. I said tomentosa. That's actually the invasive one. This is elongata. This is the non-invasive one. But these are the empress trees. These get massive. So I'm actually going to put some of these in there. And maybe they go, maybe they don't. Who knows? But it's kind of fun. Okay, wildflower mixture. So we've got baby's breath bachelor button, which is kind of invasive, but it's whatever. It's not too bad. Black-eyed Susan, poppies, catchflies, chrysanthemums, coreopuses, flax, penstemon, primrose, coneflower, lupins, daisy, and wallflowers. Sure. And then we've got beneficial insect mix, which has alfalfa, alyssums, lemon balm, wild bergamot, which is bee balm, black-eyed Susan, buckwheat, butterfly weed, coriander, cosmos, evening primrose, glorioso daisy, goldenrod, dill. I don't need any more goldenrod, but dill, Florence fennel, status, prairie, sunflower, Rocky Mountain, penstemon, yarrow, and zinnia lilliput. So tons of stuff in this. Got a bunch of those packages, so I'm not going to show you emptying them all, but I've got like 40 packages or so. So these are all going in there, all the same stuff. All right, some more Kentucky blue bush beans. More bush beans. Again, these are all going to go bad, so whether they grow or not, whether I get any beans or not, they're still going to fix nitrogen. And worst case, it's organic matter in the soil. Something will eat it. I don't know. And oh, red pepper seeds. So tons of pepper seeds. So same thing. You get you get so many pepper seeds off of pepper. So I just collect them, dry them out, and then I can throw them in here. Worst case, it's a pepper plant that lives and dies and does some photosynthesis before it like comes up early. So this is the thing. You really want a mix of annuals and perennials. Sometimes people will just plant perennials into their system when they're making a seed mix or something like that. But perennials tend to be slower to start. Annuals, because they got to get up, they got to flower, they got to seed, they got to do that to pass their genetic material on to the next year. They're usually faster growers. So you want to include some kind of annuals into your seed mixes as well, just to get the area growing, get photosynthesis happening, get shade to the soil. Super, super important. And then they die, they finish their job for the year. Next year, the perennials come up. And the perennials get established. So don't overlook annuals. These peppers, you know, we would eat a pepper and I just save every seed. It was zero cost to me, and I'll just throw those pepper seeds into the seed mix. All right, so here's what we got, and now we're gonna mix it up. All right, nice thorough mixing. You can't take too long mixing this stuff. Like, it is worth taking the extra time to mix it all in well. Can I get that? There we go. So it's all very, very well mixed. Now, total cost of this seed product, and I couldn't get them in bulk because seeds are basically out everywhere, I guess, due to coronavirus, due to supply concerns, workers, lockdowns. Seeds going out is actually kind of scary. So that's happening right now. So I had to get these seed packets, which are way smaller and not as economical. So total cost was $80 roughly, but let's talk about that. Okay, so maybe it cost me $80 to buy some seeds, wildflower seeds. But throwing that on a hillside that's basically dead, including in compost and life into it, I'm basically planting a forest, especially when you consider that, you know, there's locust trees in there, there's empress trees in there, there's catalpas in there, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that's gonna act as a seed bank over the next 100 years, maybe, depending. So there's a lot of value to that. Now, how much money does a gardener spend in fertilizer amendments? So how much nitrogen are those clovers and lupins going to give me on that hill for the next 100 years? How much do gardeners spend on insecticide and herbicide? You know, there's just so much value in feeding the insect, the insect food chain, and getting predators and pollinator insects in. It's just, it's priceless. $80, that's nothing. How much do you spend to get a package of ladybugs delivered to your house, to get praying mantises, to get green lacewings? So there's a ton of value in getting plant diversity into your land. So $80, buying packets that you know, are definitely not buying in bulk, pretty uneconomical to do what I just did, but there's tremendous value there. And even if I was to just cover it in grass seed, I'm gonna spend $80 anyway, so what am I gonna get? A bunch of grass? Like, did I have to mow? So to me, it's no brainer. I'm not gonna have to touch that hill again. It just sit there and it'll just feed the insects. So I don't know, to me, it's a no-brainer. Now, when's the ideal day to do this? A day like this. Raining, the seeds will automatically get watered, the birds are kind of chilling out, hiding from the rain. It gives you time to get the seed down on the ground, step on it with a piece of plywood to compact it and put it into the soil, and then mulch it and cover it back up. You don't want to have flocks of birds descending on your brand new seeds and getting a nice gourmet meal. So we're also going to grab a piece of plywood, like I said. Once we sow it, we're going to step on it with the plywood. Okay, so first things first, we had a couple areas where I ended up running out some ledges on the pond that I want to get stuff sowed into, and I ran out of seed. So we're going to do that first, and then we will assess how much seed we have for this lower hill area. For those that didn't watch the last video, the idea is to turn this whole lower, at least starting with this, see how much seed I have, starting with this, turn this into a pollinator garden essentially. Just a wildflower hill, probably that as well. And then I'm never going to come in here again, and what I'll do instead is build some kind of staircase on one side of this, depending on how I want to use the land. Come in behind the cedar, come up here, you know, do something neat where when you come down the cedar pathway, you're walking around a wildflower hill. You come up here, you see this, it's overgrown and there's a wildflower hill behind it. I kind of like that. Willows in here. So yeah, I kind of like that design. So maybe we'll do something like that. Okay, so how am I doing these small areas? Now, you don't need much. There's so much seed in here. So I'm just taking a little bit of it. I'm sprinkling it a tiny bit on these areas. You really don't need a lot, and then you can just kind of, give it a rough up and then a pat down. It's really hard to do this one-handed and be efficient. And then I'll come by and mulch all this later today. Because I got a little on my gloves, I can stick a little in here. Right, some seeds will come off in there. Okay, so what I suggest doing now is take whatever you have left and split it into two. What you're going to do is you're going to use the first one to do your initial sow, and then ideally you're doing it when it's raining with dry mix, or the opposite when it's dry with kind of moist mix. Somehow that you have a color differential so that when you throw it, you can see areas where you might have missed or not. And the idea is that when you do your second batch, you're going to come back and you're going to oversow it again, and you'll know, kind of where to concentrate. So it might help. It's a decent tip, I think. I don't see a reason not to do it, so that's kind of why I've always done it that way. And then when you're throwing the seed, you can either put it in a rotary mixer. I'm not too worried, I'm not seeding a lawn here. I don't want perfect uniformity, so I'm not too worried about that. I basically just have a straight arm motion, and I just go like this, and I just kind of fan it out. And I like to cup my hand like this, because basically I find it makes it really shoots them out in a nice tidal wave, almost fan, when you're throwing them. So you can just kind of figure out your own motion, but you just want a constant velocity motion where you're constantly releasing tension, and you just practice. It's really an art form. Just keep practicing it. Okay, so now we're going to go behind it, and we're going to go across this whole hill with this plywood here, and we're just going to drop it down, maybe give it a little bit of a step on, just to press those seeds into the soil a little bit. Okay, now because the board is going to pick up some seed after you do that, you go to a place that you actually want a nice little thick area, and you're going to rub the board off. That'll help get some of those seeds off. And so that way you're not wasting any seed. And then you can stick this out in the rain, somewhere where the rain will, on an angle, where the rain will drip off on it and potentially seed another area. Okay, so now I gotta be quick. I gotta go get some wood chips and get those down. We're just gonna kind of broadcast the wood chips. You don't want it so thick that the baby little plants can't push up through. But I can hear the birds all in the trees, so they're all coming to get this hill, so I gotta get going. Just thin layer of wood chips now. Okay, so remember also, with all things, not just this, the goal is not to be perfect, okay? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Just get going. We need action. So don't worry about if you're following every step perfectly. I might maybe not even doing it optimally. Just get out there and get going. Don't fall into this analysis paralysis crap. Just get going and get busy. Don't worry about perfect. Just do good enough.
Okay, so wood chip this whole bottom area. Still have to do these pathways, but I really wanted to get this hill all wood chipped. Like I said, this is just a thin layer of chips. Because remember, my strategy here, I'm not sheet mulching. I'm not strangling out existing growth and then building on top of it. I'm creating a disturbance by, the whole digging of the hill, sowing in seeds of what I want to exist there, and then mulching it and kind of letting nature take over. So I really like this approach. This is how I do a lot of some of my other garden beds. Is I overseed things and options that I want nature to pick from, and then I let nature figure out what it wants to grow. And that way, anything that's growing in that area is out competing the other options, and it's kind of this thing that wants to live the most. Instead of me saying I want this particular plant there, I just overseed a bunch of plants, and yeah, kind of just, that's kind of what nature needs us to do. Nature needs us to set it up, get it established, and then get out of the way. So consider putting in wild pollinator areas, consider making seed balls, and feeding nature as well, because we need nature more than nature needs us. Don't ever forget that. So I'm almost done. Finish these wood chip paths, maybe plant some more trees, extend these swales out. I really would like to maybe eventually dig a swale in, because I want to stop that water, spread it out, slow it down, sink it underground instead of having it running, carrying soil away. The wood chips will help a little bit. The wood chips kind of, when the rain hits it, it actually a game of plinko. So the rain hits a wood chip and it'll deflect back and forth, and every deflection is a collision. It's a velocity and momentum exchange and energy exchange. Takes the energy and velocity out of the rain. So that really helps to prevent erosion. And then the second biggest thing is roots in the ground acting as cumulative tensile strength. So wood chips, mulch, roots. We did that down here, sowing in wild everything, even tree species like catalpa, Paulina elongata, black locust, whole bunch of stuff in there, not just wildflowers. And then next is finishing these wood chip pathways, and then I'm done in terms of getting this set up besides the deck. Then I can just kind of play and add stuff, decorate it, fill in gaps, chip away at it. So most of the hard work's done. I'll get the drone out tomorrow, maybe later today. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.